got for you today review of the Lian Li PC-P50 armor built PC gaming case. It's got a rather pretty straightforward design to it, typical of most gaming machines where they've got these strange angles on the top and very tall design. The entire case is aluminum, with the exception of this small panel here, just this little piece right here. That's just plastic, and that's mostly just because of the buttons here. The panel right there is actually a metal panel, but this whole little bit there is, but the rest of this all around here is aluminum. Front's aluminum, side panels, rear, and inside full aluminum case, standard what Lian Li does. The side panels are pretty much the same as any other case, standard slide off panels, secured with our 4 thumb screws, as most cases are from Lian Li. And what we have here is some extra pieces that you usually don't see. They included 3 of these anti-vibration pads. These are for actual use in installing the hard drives. I'll show you that in a bit. We have a cable management wrap guide here. That's for helping with the cables to the power supply. And then we actually have this power supply mounting bracket. I'll show you that in a few too. As well as these 2 additional power converters. They included another cable management guide, one of those little mini PC speakers, some rubber grommets for the hard drive mounting, and something kind of unusual for the system was that they have these little small thumb screws for the motherboard to actually be installed into the system. Instead of using screws to screw it down with, they have these thumb screws for it. And they give you a couple of each style. They got these longer ones and they got the shorter ones, 6 of the shorter ones for the longer ones. We got some of the hardware mounting screws here, standard, and some extra ones here as well. As you see inside the case here, they've already got several of these standoffs pre-configured in here in all the slots labeled A. And they are removable. You can take a standard nut driver, take those out. And at the top of the case we got these huge fans. We got 2 of them actually, to blow air out of the system. We've got a 120 millimeter fan at the back to help with exhaust, and probably can't see at the moment, but there's another 120 millimeter fan on the front of the case here to bring cool air in. Our standard mounting bracket area for the power supply, and our expansion panel mounts here for putting in things such as your graphics cards, sound cards, and other add-ins you might want to have. The release on these is very simple. You just simply pull it up. It's got a nice metal bracket, not plastic, and then you can simply place your card in and then secure it again by simply pushing down and locking into position. As you can see here, I have had a little bit of a hassle with these, and that once you go ahead and release them and you want to try and get a card in, it doesn't quite stay up. It seems to be you almost got to kind of put something on it to hold it back for you to put it in, and then you can lock it back into position. The mounting process for the 5 1/4 drives are pretty straightforward. It just has one of these little swing arms held in place once you do lock in with this little metal, or I shouldn't say metal, plastic tab attached to this metal arm here, and that helps keep the 5 1/4 drives in. It has 2 of these little studs sticking out from it, so that actually matches up with your screw holes and locks it into position. If you really wanted to, you could go through and physically remove these. It's just held in with these two plastic arms here. You could just squeeze those in, take it out, and you'd still have access to the screw holes. The mounting arm is only located on one side of the case and is not on the opposite side. Further inside of our case here, we have standard connectors for the hard drive lights, power lights, and the such here, switches. And the power LED, in case you're wondering, is a 3-pin connection, but only 2 of them are used. And I'll make a video on that in the future, but those can always be reconfigured, folks. So don't worry about those. Some people have asked about that in the past. We do have our USB connector for the upper port, our audio connector for HD and standard AC97 connector, and all that good stuff goes up into our front panel I showed you before with our USB, microphone, and headphone connector, power, and reset button. This particular hole here would be for if you want to go through and put in a different cooling bracket on the back of your motherboard without actually having to remove it from the motherboard. Most of the motherboards you have to go through, take them out of the system to go ahead and put those in. This little panel here provides ease of access on that. We also have some cable management holes here. Just kind of put our cables here to keep them out of the way while I show some other components here. But you can actually use this for routing cables either from the back to the front or along to the sides of the system here, or further up or down the case itself to keep them out of visible sight. We also have some here at the bottom, and of course we have this nice gap here where the power supply would mount, so you can actually run them up out here and onto your motherboard. The hard drive cage is held in with 4 screws, 2 on each side of the case, so you do have to remove the actual drive the side panels of the case to get this off. As you can see, our main fan is attached to this assembly. Our cabling as well goes along with the assembly as well for the fan itself. As you can see, starts here underside, comes on up, and basically it's just resting on the bottom of the whole drive carriage assembly. The hard drive actual brackets themselves are pretty much just your standard little rubber grommets held in with some screws. Actually just slide on out very easily. And what you can do is you have your panel that wraps around the drive cage itself. Have your little panel that wraps around the drive carrier itself, and it folds open, and in here you have your anti-vibration pad that actually you put your hard drive in here, you fold this down on top of it, and it prevents that from moving around. As you do see here, you do have a hole for mounting the hard drive there and there if you want to use it, and you also have holes on the bottom. As you can see, this is how a hard drive actually looks once mounted into this drive carrier. You still have your little rubber grommets for putting it into the main assembly here, the drive cage, and the actual holes themselves don't quite line up. Those would be more for like a 3.5 drive, really, for putting those in there. But as I will rotate this here and show you, you can see here that the arm on the right side and the left looks pretty stressed in this. Haven't put any additional padding in this, so it's not like it's being forced in any way to be thicker than usual, but that does concern me a bit in this design. So I would still recommend putting a single screw hole or single screw on each side of this to help keep the drive in the event that this little anti-vibration padding and mounting bracket fails. I have to say that's really the only thing I don't like about this case design is this hard drive mount. but it looks like you can really only put one of these in here. If you got a very small screw, you might be able to fit it into the gap there, so you can get a screw on each side, but I want to be putting at least one screw in this so that it goes through and is more safely secured. And finally, as you see here, putting the drive back into the drive carrier lines up nice. You do have screw holes on each side of the drive cage that go all the way through to the drive. Autofocus doesn't like this because it's a shiny surface, but you have the screw hole there and the opposite screw that I actually put in there. So if you're worried about the drive coming out of this, you could put a longer screw in that can go actually into the drive and into the bracket here. They do provide some of these longer screws with the system. If you feel so inclined, you do get 4 of them. They are the proper threading to go through and do that, but that's really unnecessary in my opinion. These anti-vibration grommets work fine. The only time I would put those in, the screw hole to go all the way through one side into the drive, would be if you transport your system a lot. Alrighty, and rounding up our review here, I'm going to show you the last bits. You do have 2 holes here for water cooling pipes. If you want to go through, put those in. You could easily replace this whole fan here with a radiator block, allowing that it is of the same size for the screw holes, all that good stuff. Go ahead, you put your pipes through, get into all your good internal stuff. And the last part here is our actual power supply mounting bracket. You do have some more of the anti-vibration pads here to keep that in place. And then you have the actual bracket for the power supply itself. Now your power supply still does screw in with its normal screw holes here. But what you do is, to help prevent vibration, is you put the bracket into one side of the case here. A little hard to do with one hand. Your power supply, of course, sits in the middle. It goes over it. Then you take your arm down here, goes into a little hole down here at the bottom. As you can see, a little cutout there. It just simply goes into there, and then to lock into place, you simply lift up the lever and it's locked in place, keeping it from having any extra vibrations into the case, keeping it a little bit more quiet. And obviously removing it just the same way, go through and pretty much got to try and wiggle that arm out if you want to get the arm off there. But the arm is not required to be in the system. And last thing here is you can go through and put your actual cable management piece in here. It clicks in. On the underside of the case, if you flipped it over, you can go through and disengage these little tabs to get it right back out of the case. But that's it. Overall, it is a very nice case. Nice room inside. Some of the longer graphics cards may have clearance issues in here. It's not very big inside of there, and unfortunately I cannot find my tape measure to give you an exact measurement, but I would estimate that it is close to probably about a 10 or 11 inch clearance from one side to where this is. Might be up to 12, but that would be kind of pushing it in my opinion. It's going to be a little short of that, I think. So any longer graphics cards than that will have problems. The drive here mounting, you can push it further back. As you see, it's mounted on these slides here, and you can basically slide it back more. If you take out some of the front panels here, the ventilation covers, you can get it back a little bit more if you really need the extra 1/4 to 1/2 inch that this is going to cause you in trouble. But other than that, I'm liking the case. I would definitely recommend it. If anything I would improve on it would be these drive mounts. I think that the whole flip over mount system is kind of antiquated, and not really good in my opinion. I like a nice secure drive mount, but I do understand the benefit of it. If you want to go through and just have anti-vibration style mounting, you can simply have that fold over mount with another pad put under it, and vibrations are basically non-existent for the hard drive. But that's it for this review. If you have any questions, give me a shout. And again, this was the Lian Li PC-P50 armor build case. Until next time, I'll see you later.